Let's begin with a simple truth. Your life doesn't change by accident. It changes by intention. The difference between people who grow and people who stay stuck is not talent, intelligence, or luck. It's habits. Not grand events, not once-in-a-lifetime breakthroughs. Habits. The small, consistent actions you repeat every single day are what determine the direction of your life. And the best part? You don't have to wait years to see the change. In just 30 days, these 5 daily habits, if done with purpose, will shift the way you think, feel, and live. Most people begin their mornings in a rush. Alarm blaring, mind spinning, reaching for their phones before their feet even touch the ground. Notifications, news, messages, noise. The world demands our attention before we've had a moment to give any to ourselves. This is the root of anxiety, distraction, and burnout. We're not just waking up, we're launching ourselves into chaos. And that chaos stays with us all day long. But what if we chose a different path? What if we decided that the first moments of our day belong to us, not to emails, not to social media, not to anyone else? Starting the day with stillness is a radical act of self-leadership. It's not meditation for the sake of peace. It's intentional silence to build clarity, strength, and direction. When you begin your day grounded, you set the tone for everything that follows. You don't just react, you respond. You don't just move, you move with purpose. Stillness isn't just about closing your eyes and breathing. It's about pausing long enough to think, to feel, to listen to what's actually happening inside you. We spend so much time looking outward, comparing, scrolling, striving, that we lose sight of the most important relationship we have, the one with ourselves. And that relationship is built in silence, in solitude. Those first 10 minutes, just 10 before the noise creeps in, are powerful. They allow you to reconnect with your values before the world tries to sell you its distractions. They allow you to ask what matters today, who do I want to be today, not just what needs to get done, but who do I need to become to do those things well. Stillness allows you to lead yourself before anything else demands your leadership. And here's the truth. The world will always try to hijack your attention. There will always be something urgent. But urgent doesn't mean important. Urgent often means someone else's priority. If you don't choose what to focus on, someone else will choose for you. When you choose stillness, you take ownership of your focus. You choose to start the day with intention instead of stress. And that small act, sitting in silence, breathing with awareness, thinking deliberately, that act compounds over time. You become calmer under pressure, more thoughtful in conversation, more grounded in your decisions, more aware of your emotional state. You don't snap as quickly, you don't spiral as often. You begin to master yourself. It's not that problems disappear, it's that your ability to face them strengthens. Stillness builds internal space, and that space becomes the room where growth happens. When you're not reactive, you're reflective. When you're not pulled in every direction, you're able to choose the right one. Life feels lighter, not because it is, but because you've become stronger. Some will say they don't have time for stillness. But let's be honest, we make time for what we value. And if you truly value peace, clarity, leadership, purpose, then those 10 minutes are not a luxury, they're a necessity. So tomorrow morning, before the world begins its tug of war for your energy, pause, sit, breathe, think, feel. No music, no screen, no multitasking. Just you being fully present with yourself, because in that presence is where direction begins. And when your day begins with direction, it doesn't matter what comes, you'll be ready. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It's the beginning of real momentum. Most people spend their lives avoiding discomfort. We've been trained to seek ease, convenience, and safety to minimize pain and maximize comfort. But here's the hard truth. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Transformation lives on the other side of challenge. And if you want to become someone you've never been, you'll have to do things you've never done. That's why doing one hard thing on purpose every day isn't just a habit, it's a mindset, a decision, a daily commitment to your evolution. Doing one hard thing doesn't mean punishing yourself. It means choosing an action that stretches you mentally, emotionally, or physically, even if just a little. Something that forces you to confront resistance that makes you nervous, uncomfortable, or uncertain. Because when you lean into that resistance, you build strength, you build discipline, and most importantly, you build trust in yourself. It can be as simple as taking a cold shower when your body screams for warmth, speaking up in a meeting when your voice wants to stay quiet, waking up at 5 a.m. when your bed begs you to stay, lifting heavier at the gym, saying no when you've always said yes, asking for help, having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, starting something you're afraid to fail at. These may seem small in isolation, but their impact compounds over time. Each time you do something hard on purpose, you send yourself a message. I can handle discomfort. I don't need to run. I am not a prisoner of fear. Most people wait for life to force them into hard situations. They wait for tragedy, crisis, or rock bottom. But those who grow intentionally don't wait. They train. They condition their mind by facing difficulty every day so that when life does get hard, and it will, they don't break. They're ready. They've practiced. Doing one hard thing a day builds grit. And grit isn't talent. It's not motivation. It's the ability to stay with something hard even when you want to quit. And in today's world of shortcuts, that's a rare and powerful skill. Grit is what keeps you consistent when motivation fades. It's what builds confidence, because confidence doesn't come from feeling good. It comes from proving to yourself that you can do hard things, especially when you don't feel like it. There's something deeply liberating about doing the thing you fear. You realize that fear is just a story. Resistance is just a signal, and pain, real, necessary pain, is often the birthplace of strength. We don't grow because things get easier. We grow because we get stronger. Here's the catch. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You just need to do one hard thing each day. Just one. That's enough to train your mind, enough to build resilience, enough to remind you that you are not here to live a life of avoidance. You are here to expand, to lead, to rise, and eventually the things that once scared you will become normal. What was once hard becomes routine, and that's when you level up. Because once you've mastered one level of discomfort, you seek the next. Not because you enjoy pain, but because you value growth. So choose it. Wake up every day and ask, what hard thing will I do on purpose today? Then do it, not for the outcome, but for the process, for the strength that builds, for the pride that follows, for the person you become in the doing. Hard things shape strong people, and strong people shape their lives. There's a quiet power in admitting that you don't know everything. In fact, the moment you think you've arrived, the moment you believe you've learned enough, is the exact moment growth stops. True learning isn't just about collecting facts or gaining skills. It's about surrendering ego. It's about stepping into humility every single day and saying, there's more for me to discover. And one of the most transformative daily habits you can develop is to deliberately learn something that humbles you. When you learn something that humbles you, you place yourself in the position of the student, not the expert. You enter a space where you're not the smartest person in the room, and that's exactly where you should be. Because in that space, your mind stays open. Your perspective stretches. Your assumptions are tested. And you remember that no matter how much you think you know, the world is infinitely more complex, layered, and beautiful than you could ever fully understand. It could be reading a page from a book in a field you know nothing about, listening to a podcast that challenges your worldview, studying the life of someone whose journey is radically different from yours, asking a question you're afraid will make you look foolish, sitting with someone and simply listening, not to reply, not to debate, but to understand. All of these actions do something powerful. They pull you out of your bubble. They remind you how much more there is to learn, and that learning never ends. And that feeling, that moment of, wow, I didn't know that, or I never thought of it that way, that's humility. That's the edge of growth, and it's where you need to live. Humility doesn't mean weakness. It means strength that isn't threatened by difference. It means confidence that doesn't need to be right all the time. The most dangerous kind of ignorance is the one that hides behind certainty. But when you actively seek what humbles you, you protect yourself from arrogance. You keep yourself adaptable, and in a world that changes faster every day, adaptability is survival. You see, growth isn't just about getting better at what you already do. It's about expanding the way you see. And often, it's the lessons that sting a little, the ones that challenge your deeply held beliefs or expose your blind spots that carry the most weight. They hurt your pride but grow your character. And over time, learning what humbles you changes the way you lead, the way you relate to others, and the way you speak. You become slower to judge and quicker to listen. You ask more questions and make fewer assumptions. You create space for others to be heard, and that space becomes the foundation for trust, connection, and influence. It takes courage to admit that you're not the expert, to raise your hand and say, teach me. But that simple act is what separates those who stagnate from those who evolve. Because no matter your title, experience, or success, there's always someone or something that can teach you more. So every day, choose to learn something that humbles you. Let it stretch your thinking. Let it challenge your certainty. Let it remind you that you are a work in progress, and that's a beautiful place to be. In humility, you don't shrink. You rise, not above others, but beyond who you were yesterday. In a world that constantly tells us to compete, to chase status, to collect followers, and to seek recognition, the idea of serving one person without expecting anything in return feels almost radical. But it is in this simple, selfless act that our deepest humanity is revealed. When we serve without keeping score, without looking over our shoulder to see who noticed, we step into the kind of character that can't be taught in books or measured in metrics. We lead not with power, but with purpose. Serving one person each day doesn't require grand gestures. It's not about donating huge sums of money or starting a foundation. It's about presence, kindness, a quiet moment of care, sending an encouraging message to someone who's struggling, holding space for a friend who just needs to be heard, opening a door, offering help, sharing knowledge, giving your full attention to someone without rushing them. Even these small actions matter more than we realize. You never know the battles people are fighting silently. You never know the weight someone's carrying beneath their smile. And sometimes your small gesture, the kind word, the patient ear, the genuine compliment becomes the moment that gives someone just enough strength to keep going. But here's what makes this habit transformative. You do it with no strings attached, no agenda, no hidden motives. You're not building a network or earning social points. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do. Because your value isn't defined by how much you take, but by how much you give when no one's watching. When you serve someone with no expectation, you shift the energy around you. You create a ripple effect. That person may never repay you, may never even thank you, but you've planted something in them and in yourself. You've practiced empathy. You've strengthened compassion. You've aligned with the kind of person you want to be. And that alignment matters, because the world doesn't need more cleverness. It needs more kindness. More leaders who don't just speak about values, but live them quietly, consistently, and without applause. Service without expectation keeps your ego in check. It reminds you that leadership isn't about being above others. It's about lifting others up. It's about understanding that your time, your wisdom, your attention, they're not just tools for personal gain. They're gifts to be shared. It also changes how you see people. You begin to look beyond status and surface. You start noticing the person in the background, the one who's overlooked. You see opportunities to help, not because someone is important, but because they are human. And that's enough. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to document it. In fact, the impact is often deeper when no one knows it happened but you. There's something pure in that kind of giving. Something that realigns you with your values and clears the noise of self-interest. Some days it will be easy. Other days it will take effort. But every day it is worth it. So make it a practice. Every single day serve one person. Just one. Without expecting anything in return. Without needing them to acknowledge it. Do it because you can. Because someone once did the same for you. Because service is not weakness. It's strength under control. And in the end, the life you build through service will be one of quiet legacy. A legacy not written in headlines, but in hearts. One act, one person, one day at a time. Most people go through their days on autopilot, doing, reacting, moving from one task to the next, without ever stopping to ask themselves a simple but powerful question. How did I show up today? We avoid that question because it's uncomfortable. Because reflection, when done honestly, can be confronting. It forces us to face our choices, our patterns, our flaws. But it's also the doorway to growth. If you want to change your life, you have to be willing to look at yourself with brutal honesty. This isn't about being hard on yourself. It's not about guilt or shame. It's about truth. Because truth is what sets the foundation for improvement. You cannot grow from what you refuse to see. You cannot evolve if you're constantly lying to yourself or avoiding feedback from your own actions. Reflection is the process of stepping outside your ego and saying, let me look at who I really was today. Not who I hoped to be, not who I pretended to be, but who I actually was. At the end of each day, take just 10 minutes. No distractions, no filters. Ask yourself 2 questions. What did I do well today? And what could I have done better? Write it down if you can. Don't edit, don't justify, just tell the truth. Maybe you showed patience in a moment where you normally wouldn't. Maybe you lost your temper over something small. Maybe you avoided a task you knew you needed to do. Maybe you showed up fully for someone who needed you. Be specific. Be real. The first question builds your confidence. The second builds your character. We all want to become better. But better doesn't happen by chance. It happens by choice. And that choice starts with awareness. The simple act of noticing your behavior creates a crack in the autopilot system. It creates a space where change can begin. You become the observer of your own life, not just a participant. And in that space, you gain power. Brutal honesty isn't about tearing yourself down. It's about removing the layers of denial and distraction that keep you stuck. It's saying I messed that up today without making excuses. It's saying I avoided that because I was afraid, and then choosing to face that fear tomorrow. It's about refusing to sugarcoat the truth, because you respect your growth more than your comfort. Most people avoid this kind of self-examination because they think they can't handle the truth. But the opposite is true. It's in facing the truth that you build real self-respect. Because now you're not living a lie. You're not pretending. You're not hiding. And when you stop hiding from yourself, you stop hiding from life. Reflection is also how you stay aligned with your values. It's easy to say you believe in something. It's much harder to live it. When you reflect honestly, you get to see if your actions matched your values. Did you treat people with respect? Did you show discipline when it mattered? Did you keep your word? Did you act from fear or from purpose? These are the questions that keep your life in integrity. Over time, this practice transforms you. You become more self-aware, more intentional, more grounded. You waste less energy blaming others because you're too busy taking responsibility for yourself. You get better, not because you're perfect, but because you're committed to the process of becoming better. So don't skip the mirror. Don't run from what it shows you. Face it. Learn from it. Grow because of it. And remember, you can't lead others if you can't first lead yourself. Brutal honesty is the price of self-leadership. Pay it daily, because the life you want is built one honest reflection at a time.